Hey everyone, thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to be looking at close to 150 charts on 24 coins. So if you guys like this content, please subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on, and check out the Telegram channel in the description below. So, over the last several months, I've gotten a lot of people that are interested in the content I produce. They follow the stuff that I produce on Bitcoin. They follow everything I produce on Ethereum. But there are also a number of other coins they may have in their portfolios, and they want some information on it from, more of a data science perspective or a macro level analysis, something more than just what you might find on TradingView. So I've created, return on investment charts. So we're going to be looking at 30-day charts, 60-day, 90-day, 180-day, 1 year, and 2-year ROI on 24 coins. So it totals almost 150 charts. I hope this will be valuable to people. And to the people that are watching on your phones and are going to be upset that you can't really make out everything, I will say that one option, I will be providing all of these charts. You can download them and PDF form. Just either join my Telegram group in the description below, and I'll put it up in a pinned message. Or you can check out my website at intothecryptoverse.com, and from there you can just sign up for the newsletter, and I'll try to send the PDF out there after a few days have gone by and everyone has had a chance to sign up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing we're going to be, I need to say a few things. So on the y-axis here, on every chart, I first started fixing it. But the issue with fixing it is that each coin has very different cyclical patterns, and some coins see, 50x ROIs in 30 days. That has happened, while other coins haven't seen more than, say, a 3x in 30 days. And so by fixing it, it really can make it hard to identify what some coins are doing, because it gets lost in translation, because the y-axis on other charts would be so high. So that's why we're not going to keep them the same for every chart. So what I did is I just let the y-axis vary to accommodate the price data for that cryptocurrency. Now, it works out some of the times pretty well when you have a log scale. You can see like 10 to the minus 1, which is 0.1, so this would be a 90% loss. 10 to the 0 would be 1, so that means you're breaking even. And 10 to the 1 is 10, so that means you'd be seeing a 10x return on your investment. Where it isn't so pretty is on charts like this, where just the y-axis, and yes, I could have gone in manually and added more tick labels, but it's kind of cumbersome doing it for 150 different charts. So please forgive me on that. But if you're not familiar with log charts, the way to read these is this is 1, and then the next tick up would be 2, and then this would be 3. So this would be 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. This would be, again, 1x, 0.9, so a 10% loss, 0.8, 20% loss, so on and so forth. So I hope that makes sense. So let's just go ahead and start. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is just Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Bitcoin Cash on this first slide. So you can see the 30-day return on investment, and for Bitcoin, it's fairly obvious that there is this trend in decreasing volatility over time, and this is one of the reasons why we see diminishing returns. Is each market cycle, the return, the volatility at any given time is likely going to be reduced, and we've been seeing this for the last decade. You can see that in 2011 we had a 30-day ROI that was nearing 10x or so. In 2014 it was 6 or 7x. In 2018, or I should say 2017, because that was when it peaked. So at the end of 2017, you can see that the 30-day ROI hit around 3x or so. And clearly we're not near the top of this trend line. But if and note that this is an imaginary line. It's not actually meaningful in any sense of the imagination. We could easily pop above this line. But if you were to take it as something that maybe could be used as an indicator to identify where we've peaked out in short-term volatility, then maybe something like this would be useful. So if in the near term you could say that this is 10 to the 1 or 10 to the 0, so 1, and this would be 2. So if we were to say see a 2x ROI in 30 days, then that would basically be corresponding to the top of this channel. In 2018, I guess, so in early, well, I guess that the peak was in 2017, and then you can see it came down. You can see that that was around 3x, and so now we're getting around 2x. So imagine if Bitcoin were to say go to $20,000 in 30 days, which I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. This is not financial advice, anything like that. But if it were to go to 20x, then you can imagine that we would be bumping up against this decreasing trend line on 30-day or monthly volatility. Now, other coins behave quite differently. You can see that for XRP, it basically is more or less humdrum for most of its life, and then when it moves quickly. You can see that in 2014 it had or say 2013 it had a 10x return in 30 days. In 2017 it had 2 separate times where it reached a 10x in 30 days, and maybe one of those was briefly into 2018. So, with XRP, it's one of those coins that, not to say that it has to see amazing returns again, but it's one of those coins that is just dead forever until it's not. And then you might see a 10x ROI in a month, and then you might not see anything else for another 4 years. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. Ethereum, pretty much mimics Bitcoin in a sense, which I think makes sense because I think Ethereum, I like to think of it as, say, the altcoin or the index for altcoins. I know it technically is, most people might say it's an altcoin. I don't really consider it an altcoin. I just think, there's more devs on Ethereum than any other project. There's decentralized finance, which is, Ethereum's basically the backbone. We have smart contracts, all sorts of stuff with Ethereum. It's hard to imagine Ethereum not continuing to at least emulate what Bitcoin's doing, notwithstanding some catastrophic thing in the code or some exploit or something like that. Now, Bitcoin Cash is a bit different. It more or less, I think, follows, a lot of times it'll follow what Bitcoin's doing, but to a larger extent. So, when Bitcoin's moving up, a lot of times with Bitcoin Cash, the volatility is a lot higher. The downside is that when Bitcoin drops, Bitcoin Cash tends to drop a lot more. Case in point, if we look at, right before 2019, you can see that 30-day ROI on Bitcoin went down. So this would be 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, around maybe 50% loss, whereas Bitcoin Cash saw 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, I don't know, like around an 80 to 90% loss. In 30 days. That's pretty impressive to see. I guess it's probably an 80% loss or so in 30 days, which is no easy task. Now, since then, Bitcoin Cash has rebounded, and it's trading back up around $300 or so. But it did get quite low at one point, and it's one of those. It's definitely a lot more speculative, I would say, than maybe like, say, Ethereum. All right, we got a lot of charts to get through, so let's just keep moving. Again, if you don't want to listen to me talk about all of the charts, then you can check out my Telegram channel in the description below, download the PDF, or you can go to the website and sign up for the newsletter. Or not a newsletter, just sign up. Yeah, subscribe to the newsletter, and I'll send it out in a few days. So here we have Litecoin, 30-day ROI. You can see it even reached a peak at one point of over 20x. But it hasn't seen that since. And again, each cycle tends to be less and less in terms of the volatility, because in the 2017 cycle, you can see that the 30-day volatility only reached, say, like 5x or so, as opposed to the 20x that it had in 2013. We would expect that to continue to reduce in future cycles. Now, that's not to say you can't see amazing returns. It just means that you're likely not going to see 20x in 30 days. Maybe you'll see 20x, but maybe it'll take 2 years. So that's just something to consider. We have EOS. You can see that it's one of those ones that the tick marks didn't quite work out that well, but it more or less it's started at around 1, then we saw basically like a 50 to 60% loss, then we saw an increase of 5x, and then it has been oscillating quite a bit, and other than that, there's nothing too too noteworthy. You can see that it for the last year or so, it never has quite reached a 30-day ROI of 2x. So maybe you can stick that in your back pocket for future knowledge with that coin. BNB, it had a really impressive run in 2017. In fact, it had a 30-day ROI of between 30 and 40x, which is quite incredible. One of the nice things about having this running ROI is that it doesn't actually depend on just say one point in time, but that point in time is constantly moving. So it gives all coins, a fair evaluation by saying, what, maybe you had a good ROI, or maybe you had a bad ROI according to this month, but maybe this other month it was actually a lot better. So this way, we can actually track it easier. And then we have XTZ, and it started off seeing a pretty significant loss, even down to around 20 to 30% of what you put in. But you can see it has nicely recovered, and it peaked up out here at around a 2.5x ROI in 30 days, which again is one of those coins that also saw a 2.5x in April of 2019 and June or so of 2019. So some of these coins seem to have these local tops in a sense in terms of the 30-day ROI. You can see it here for EOS, and you can see it here for XTZ, and so on and so forth. So let's keep moving. We have OKB. You can see it also behaves with these local tops. It doesn't seem to ever get above 2.5. It can get to say between 2 and 2.5 on the 30-day ROI, but it hasn't been able to get any higher than that since it's been around. We have Cardano, which a lot of people remember that move back in 2017. It saw a 20x or so in 30 days, and since then it's more or less been humdrum, which kind of is similar to XRP in a sense, if you remember that one. Where it didn't really do much for a long time from 2013 to 2017, but then in 2017 it had not one but two instances, if you include just like the first couple of weeks of 2018 in that, where it did go up by about 10x or so. We have Link, and Link has seen obviously very differing results, going up to as high as maybe 5 or 6x on your 30 days. To as low as 70%, 80% losses or so. But again, the last peak on the 30-day ROI for Link was around a 4x. So it might be something to consider the next time the 30-day ROI on Link gets back to a 4x or maybe even a 3x, as you could treat it as preemptive. And that's not to say that Link can't keep going up over the long haul. It just means that maybe it'll correct, and then go back into this accumulation region, and then it'll start moving up again, so that the 30-day ROI will kind of get reset in a sense, and it won't continue to just take off. XLM, it had a really good run in 2017 as well, and a lot of times you'll notice some of these charts have really remarkable moves in early 2017 and then late 2017 or early 2018. And again, the one in early 2017 corresponded to Bitcoin getting back to its previous all-time high, and the one in 2018 was kind of after Bitcoin ended its bull run. So remember, a lot of people are just like to say that they're all in on a specific altcoin, but a lot of times altcoins don't perform nearly as well, or at least they don't see the big gains until Bitcoin gets to its previous all-time high. Now, the other thesis we have is that when Bitcoin is healthily above the 20-week moving average, then confidence does return back to altcoins, and I think we saw that in February, where Bitcoin spiked above the 20-week. And actually, right now we're trying to hold that 20-week as continued support to try to give confidence to the fact that the bull run might be here. But again, waiting until, or at least in anticipation of Bitcoin reaching its previous all-time high of $20,000, you can imagine why coins sometimes really take off, because you look back and say, okay, well, the last time Bitcoin was $20,000, all these coins were at a valuation maybe 10 times higher than what they are now, and a lot of people also like to take their profits from Bitcoin, and they almost in a sense treat it as monopoly money, and they just throw it into altcoins and hope in the hopes that something sticks, and then a lot of times in the last cycle, a lot of coins went up, and then most of them, most of them came crashing back down and have not returned to those all-time highs. Well, some of them have, but most of them have not. And I should say, some of them will never again return to their all-time highs. So I think it's important to pick coins that really are doing something, not just a coin that has a fancy name or you saw it shilled on Reddit, but what are they doing? And I should remind you that there are a lot of YouTubers out there that will shill various altcoins, and I would just caution you in a sense, because anytime you see some random coin shill, just always ask yourself in the back of your head, well, why is it being shilled? Well, clearly that person probably has a vested interest in it, and maybe they're getting paid to promote it. So consider that. So far we have not had any paid promotions on this channel. I'm not saying we won't ever, and if we do, I would inform everyone of it. And we don't have any ads, and we don't have any referral links. We just try to give you the information so that you can trust it, so that you can, know that you're just getting something that I didn't, I'm not saying, okay, well, give me this in return. This is just the cold, hard data, and it's being delivered straight to you in PDF form. Just join the Telegram group, and you'll find it there. So let's keep moving. We got a lot of charts. XMR, you can see it has also seen actually a fairly volatile history, especially throughout that 2016-2017 bull run, where you could regularly see 30-day returns of 2 to 3x, and that went on for years. And granted, it did come down, but seeing something like that is remarkable. And XMR had an incredible run in the last cycle, and a lot of people like to equate XMR or privacy coins in general to cash. You can't track them, and you might think, well, if you can't track them, how is that? How can people in terms of, say, like taxes and whatnot? But I mean, it's really not. There's a strong analogy to be made between, say, privacy coins like Monero and just cash, and another thing about them is that you can't, because you can't really identify different ones. Like you can't say, okay, well, this one was part of a bad transaction, or a transaction that wasn't necessarily up to snuff. So you're not necessarily as worried about your coins that you might purchase being frozen by an exchange or something, because as far as it's concerned, they're all the same. So that's a little tidbit about XMR. Tron, I'm sure many people remember this massive move it had at the end of 2017, and like XRP, like Cardano, it's more or less been fairly humdrum since then, with 30-day returns peaking typically at around 2x, and not really going above that. So NEO, again, also saw a really good 2017, but you can see that it had an amazing return in the middle of 2017. So that's slightly different than some other coins. It's important to identify that not all coins, there's not just an altcoin season. I think that's kind of a myth. People say, well, there's just altcoin season. And maybe there are times where most altcoins are doing well, but there are other times where a few altcoins are doing well and others are not. Link is a great example. XTZ is a great example recently, anyways, of coins that have been, I would say for the most part, outperforming the market. Dash is another good coin, or another coin that I should say that has recently been outperforming the market. So just stick that in your back pocket. And here you can even see Dash. You can see that 30-day return that it had. It went up to a 3x, which is quite remarkable, and again also corresponded to its move back in 2018. A lot of these repeat, and a lot of people, if you're not looking at return on investment, you might miss things like this that typical technical analysis is not going to tell you. And it's just not. And by looking at the larger picture, the macro level view, you can get a lot more out of it. Here we have Atom. It looks kind of funny just because it hasn't had a super high level of volatility, but you can see it basically is oscillated between 0.5 and 1.5, 1.6 or something like that. But you can see it, it came up, it came down, it came up, and it's currently coming down. I don't really think there's a whole lot to say about it, just because there's not a ton of history with it. We have IOTA here, and again, it also had a really good middle of the year 2017, and then it had a really good end of the year 2017. And since then, you can see that its 30-day ROI has never gone above 2x. So again, if you notice, you say, hey, IOTA's at a 2x. Take that into consideration if you're managing, say, swing trading or anything like that. VET's over here. It is seen, because it doesn't go back to 2017 here. I mean, well, it did, obviously transfer into this new ticker, but it was around back then. Just it was slightly different and under a different ticker. But it is oscillated between, say, like 0.4 and 2. And again, we had a peak out here between 1.5 and 2. It peaked here between 1.5 and 2, and it peaked here just slightly higher than 2. So a lot of these coins, when we're in, say, accumulation phases or the bear market, you're not really seeing a typical return of more than 2 within 30 days. We have the basic attention token. So this is the token that is sort of it is the native token of the Brave browser. So that is a browser that I do use sometimes. So you guys can go check that out. But and one of the nice things about this token is that if you're using the Brave browser, then you can tip your favorite websites. You can set it up so it automatically tips them. And I have actually gotten a lot of tips, and I haven't even advertised it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if the idea is to, convince other creators of content that isn't necessarily related to cryptocurrency, this could be a way to onboard them to the idea, because, you could tell them that, hey, I can tip you some cryptocurrency for that, when I'm watching your videos or when I'm on your website. You just have to go sign up for it and you can receive it. And it's a way that people that are content creators can help support themselves. So I think it's a great tool. I mean, it's great to spread awareness, and that's certainly one way to do it. And then the last chart for the 30-day ROIs, we have DCR, ICX, Ravencoin, and NANO, and again, you can see similar patterns as before, and in the last couple years or so with DCR, you can see that the 30-day ROI never really gets much above 2. And with our Raven coin, it actually did peak in actually April of 2019, which is just this last year, because it hasn't been around as long, and it peaked at around 5. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x or so. So that's actually a really incredible 30-day ROI, especially as late as 2019. So that's really good. ICX recently saw a really good move and was one of the biggest winners if you watch the video I made the other day about return on investment. And then NANO is actually similar to, it seems like it's similar to coins like XRP and Cardano, Tron, in terms of its return on investment. Not in terms of its fundamentals, but just in terms of, it more or less just oscillates around 1 for most of the time. But when it has moved historically, it was a big move. I mean, obviously we don't know if this will ever happen again. And again, we didn't know that it was going to happen again with XRP, because it happened in 2013, and then it didn't happen again until 2017. So just consider these longer term trends. The next time we might see a huge jump in coins where we see like a 5 to 10x in a short period of time, might not ever happen. Or if it does, if we see a 10x in 30 days, it likely won't be in 2020 if the idea of lengthening cycles is true. So now we're gonna move quicker now, because I've talked some about the coins, so let's just move quicker. We're looking at the 60-day ROI. You can see that with Bitcoin, it originally it got up to around 15x or so, and then it peaked at around 10x. Back in the 2013 time frame. In the end of 2017, we saw it go up around almost 4x or so within 60 days. And in 2019, it went up around 2 to 3x in 60 days. So it is decreasing, and again, we're gonna have to wait longer and longer. And with Ethereum, it also, you can see these diminishing returns. And I don't think it's just going to keep going like this. I mean, it's possible that it's something like the trend line would be something like that, where this does not necessarily represent the trend line going down so quickly, because then we'd actually be below 1 soon. But that's for Ethereum. Again, with XRP, you can see how it just seems to spike at certain times, and then it basically does nothing for years and years at a time. And in fact, it saw a 60-day return on investment of 30, 40, 50, like 50 or 60x, which is quite incredible. And Bitcoin Cash saw a 60-day return of 10x. So some of these charts I'm just going to skip through just so you can look at them, and if some of these coins are ones that you're really interested in, then again, head over to the Telegram channel and you can download the PDF, and you can view all of them. You don't have to listen to me talk about all of them either. So here you can see EOS has seen 60-day returns of around 20x back in 2017, and since then it is pretty much stayed below the 2 to 3 range. While Litecoin saw again a 20x, so these are actually fairly similar if you compare them. And since then, in 2017, it was just below 10. Maybe in the mania phase of the next market cycle, I mean, this was 20 and this was maybe 8, so maybe the next one will be like 2 or 3 or 4x return in 60 days. So just, yeah, that's something to consider. Moving forward, we have OKB, which has had a really good 2019 in terms of your 2-month ROI, seeing 2-month returns of 3 to 4x 3 times, which is really remarkable, because in April, if you had bought in February, you would have seen a 4x. Again, in like late summer, you could have seen like a 3x. And then in 2020, again, you could have seen like a 3x or so. So then Link, the nice thing with Link is that it really has had a really good run over the last year or so. And I know some people do compare it to Ethereum. And if you plot the ROI of Link with Ethereum from days since inception, it does seem to mimic it to a large degree. Now, XLM, Stellar Lumens, had these 2 peaks again, and again, these peaks corresponded to Bitcoin getting to its previous all-time high and then the end of its bull run. So a lot of altcoins, I think, will have a good short-term return once Bitcoin gets to $20,000. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but and that's not to say that altcoins can't go up in the meantime. They could go 2, 3, 4x. But I think there's going to be some that outperform that by a lot if Bitcoin can get back to $20,000. So here's XMR, Tron, Dash, and Neo, and we'll just keep on moving. But I would like to point out how good of a 60-day ROI that Neo had back in July 2017. I mean, look at this. This is like 60x or so. This is incredible. And for those who think that this can never happen again, just go back to Bitcoin, and you can see that even though these are spaced out, we still do see nice local peaks where you can still see a several times return on your investment. But we would expect it to not obviously reach that point again. I don't think Neo would ever reach a 60x in 60 days. I mean, that's insane. So we have Atom, IOTA, FET, and BAT. Again, I'll let a lot of you guys just look at these on your own time. But let's move forward some so we can look at some longer time frames. So I'll just quickly show you 90-day ROIs. They tell very similar stories, and it's interesting because Binance coin BNB saw a really good run in 2019, and it's one of those coins that outperformed most of the market, and got above its all-time high from 2017, while most altcoins have not. And you can see that here because the 90-day return on investment, was hovering at 2 to 4x for many months in 2019, which is a really good return to see it stay above that level that long, because most of the time, it's really short-lived. And obviously these time scales are different from one another, but to see that is quite remarkable. Let's keep moving. We want to keep going. This is, these things you see here back in middle of 2019. Obviously, these were those moves that a lot of coins saw, and you can see that Cardano, we saw that 2x return over 90 days, and again in going into early 2020, we're moving on up, and obviously nothing just moves straight up. But we are, we're not quite to the 2x or 2.5x return on investment, but we are getting close. Link in July saw a 5 or 6x return, which is crazy. And then again, you can see XLM, and a lot of these are somewhat repetitive since stuff doesn't really change too much in these shorter time frames. So let's keep scrolling. Let's go ahead and look at the 180 days. So these are 6-month return on investment in the space. And while timing, time in the market is important, and obviously timing the market is important as well, because buying here and then selling 6 months later is a lot better than buying when it's already gone up 50x and then waiting 6 months. It just seems like common sense. But Ethereum, this is one of the reasons why so many people are bullish on Ethereum. Not only because of its fundamentals, but just look at its history and look how strong it came out swinging in 2017, where it saw a 50 to 60x, and then even spiked back up to around a 10x after it had actually lost, or after its 6-month ROI had gone down, because it's hard to keep up that level of momentum for that long. And then in 2019, it peaked at around 3x. And currently, it's between 1 and 2. So its 90-day ROI or 180-day ROI is between 1 and 2. So it's still pretty low compared to what we've seen in the past, with peaks as high as 20 or 50 or even 3. We're between 1 and 2. XRP, you can see the big 6-month spike in return on investment. But the thing is you have to take profits, because if you don't take profits, you'll just see this happen. You'll just see it come right back down, and a lot of what you gained, you're going to see it essentially disappear, because instead of just going back down to 1, where it just kind of is holding steady, you're looking at 80 to 90% losses. So keep that in mind. Again, BNB, really great 2019. Litecoin, it typically does make a decent move right before the halving. It did it, 4.5 years ago, and it did it in this last cycle. And then moving into the halving, it sees a decrease. It drops like 50% or more, and then finds a kind of a steady point. And in the last cycle, it stayed there for a long time before then moving back up. You can see that on EOS, the 180-day ROI is certainly, decreasing in a sense in terms of its volatility, peaking at around 30x, and then the next time it was around 3 to 4x, and then the next time it was around just over 1x. So you can see how different coins show different patterns, like whether it's a decreasing or where it kind of just shoots back up to what it was before. Like Litecoin. Look at Litecoin. Back in 2014, it had a half-year return on investment of around 10 to 20. Same thing in 2017, 10 to 20. Not quite as high in 2019, but I would argue we're not really back in the bull market. Maybe we'll see another 10x out in 2022 or 2023 on a 6-month time frame. Whereas other coins behave differently. They don't really see these patterns. Like they tend to go more with the diminishing returns and lower volatility of the overall market. We'll just skip through these. So let's look at the 1-year ROI. So I think this one will be interesting. So 365-day ROI. This one is pretty obvious with Bitcoin. You can see the 360. So this is 1 year. So if you're holding Bitcoin for 1 year, it would have peaked over here back at around a little over 100x in 1 year. Hopefully that would have satisfied some people. Again, another almost 100x back at the end of 2013 in 1 year. In 2018, it saw like a 20 to 30x in 1 year. And if we were to continue decreasing, then maybe the next peak will be like a 3 to 4x in 1 year. So you could imagine Bitcoin slowly moving from where it is now to say $20,000, and then maybe it would see a short-term correction, accumulate at 20,000 for a while, start to move up, picking up speed at say 30,000 and 40,000. Maybe it does that throughout the next 2 years, and then sometime in 2022, 2023, it goes parabolic and goes up 3 to 4x. Goes from 40,000 to say 130, 140,000, and then that would still match this curve at looking to see a 3 to 4x in 1 year. It's just about how you get there. Ethereum, I mean, it also, it's mimicked Bitcoin, and we've talked about this. It has seen a 1 year ROI of around a little over 100, just like Bitcoin. And if we were to continue, let's say if it corresponded to this, then we might expect, and you can see that while it came all the way down to around a 90% loss, so did Bitcoin. It came down to around an 80% loss. And even after seeing an 80% loss, after seeing a 100x gain on the 1 year ROI, then it still went up to see another 25x gain. And currently, if Ethereum were emulating Bitcoin, its 1 year ROI is only at around 1.8x or so. And theoretically, to emulate Bitcoin, we would continue slowly moving up to 20x over the next several years. But that would be in 1 year. Again, you can see how XRP does not behave like the rest of the coins, doesn't do much of anything, then has a great year. It behaves more like a step function rather than more of like it's not exactly smooth and continuous, obviously, but if you just want to think about it as more gradual rather than like say a step function. And then Bitcoin Cash is obviously more gradual, which is similar to Bitcoin and Ethereum. The 1 year ROI on Litecoin even hit 100x as late as 2017. So maybe we would also be looking for a 20x on that at some point out in the next several years, and to see a return on investment of 20x in 1 year. Obviously, we can't say for sure, but we're just looking at the patterns. And obviously, EOS didn't have nearly as good of a time. XTZ, it hasn't been around as much, or hasn't been around as long. But you can see in terms of the 1 year ROI, if you look at say shorter time frames, it goes up and it goes down. But in terms of the 1 year ROI, just buying XTZ and continuing to hold it, you're actually doing quite well. And currently your 1 year ROI would, you'd be up almost 10x or so. And then Binance Coin even saw a 1 year ROI of over 200x back in 2018 or so, which is incredible. And then you can see it crashed in terms of the 1 year ROI. But then it's nice because it's basically stayed above 1 for the last year and a half or so, where the 1 year ROI ongoing is around 2x. So it's been continuing to move up because for the 1 year ROI to be 2x here, then the price had to be 2x again what it was over here. So it has to keep on moving up. Another interesting chart is looking at OKB. You can see that its 1 year ROI is continuing to go up. Cardano, obviously, it crashed down here in 2019 of January 2019, because if you had been buying it in January of 2018, then you would be at a significant loss, upper 90% loss. But you can see over the last year, we've really started to make up some of that ground, and that 1 year ROI is steadily climbing. And currently it's back to around 1. So essentially, if you had bought Cardano a year ago, today, then you'd basically be at a break-even point. But this is a nice macro level trend to observe. This a lot of times gets lost in translation. Link also looking really good over the 1-year ROI, even peaking in 2019 at a 1-year ROI of 20x. It's no wonder that there's so many people that are really bullish on Link. I mean, if you hold Link, how could you not be? I mean, look at its trend. Whereas XLM has, to put it mildly, has not really been performing that well recently. But I mean, there is maybe a light at the end of the tunnel. You can see it has started to move back up some, but it doesn't look as promising as some of the other coins right now. But obviously it could change. Now XMR looks really interesting because you can basically see this concave down pattern that arches between 2015, peaks in 2017, and then comes back down to 2019. So it was 90% loss to a 50 to 60x gain, back down to a 90% loss, and then we're moving back up. And the 1-year ROI on Monero is currently at around 1.5x. And remember last time it peaked at 50 to 60x. But the next concave down pattern, if we were to emulate something like this, I imagine it would not go as high, and it would take longer, so it'd be flatter. So maybe it would do something like this, and then bounce like that over the next several years. Tron obviously not looking that great. You can see that the 1-year ROI for the most part is actually been less than 1, meaning continuing to buy Tron over the last year or so. In general, you're losing money. With times where you would have gained some, and I mean obviously it's also been part of this the bear market as well, but clearly there have been other coins that have performed much better. So consider that. Neo looks to be in a decent uptrend now, coming in from this also this concave down pattern that you can kind of see. Maybe this is kind of what I would imagine for XMR, to kind of see this bounce, and then we see a smaller bounce. So something like that over the next several years. Dash also looking pretty healthy in this uptrend and then downtrend and then uptrend. So again, I know I'm getting a little bit redundant. This one's pointless because it's just a few days. If you look at the 1-year ROI, IOTA finally getting back to a 1-year ROI of around equality. So keep an eye on that. Maybe that will continue to move up. Let's just keep moving. We got a lot of charts to get through. A lot of these coins, are actually doing quite well. ICX even, once it got above 1, and then it spiked up to around a 3x ROI in 1 year. And even coins like DCR and Ravencoin have been doing pretty okay recently. But actually, I guess I should say recently, Ravencoin has actually been dropping quite a bit. NANO 1-year ROI continuing to increase, so seeing some healthy movement there. And we're just about to the equality level, so hopefully hopefully we can move above that, just like we've seen other coins do so as well. Now finally we're going to look at the 2-year ROI, so 730 days, and it's really impressive because you can see that with Bitcoin, the 2-year ROI peaked at, what is this? So 203, almost 400x. The next one was, let's see, so 20, 30, 40, like around 50x. So what the moral of the story is holding Bitcoin, obviously for longer and longer, you can see how, it's just, historically, it's just been a matter of time. So, I would expect us, not that this is financial advice, to continue to repeat this pattern. And it looks like we found that local bottom again, and that we've started a trend reversal, whereas we're gonna move up, down, up, down. Next time we move up, it'll likely be flatter slope, and then it'll take longer to get to the peak, and then we'll come back down. Now Ethereum is really interesting because you can see that I think this identifies as the bottom. Now clearly we can't be sure, but the reason it's January of 2020 is because if you compare it to buying 2 years before, you would have been buying it around $1,400. So that's why I think this is the local bottom, because even if the price of Ethereum stays constant now, the 2-year ROI will continue to improve. I mean, it'll be a while before it gets to equality, but it'll continue to improve just because we're comparing to prices back in 2018. XRP. So I would expect Ethereum to continue to eventually break equality and to keep moving on up in its 2-year ROI. XRP saw a phenomenal 2017, getting up to several hundred times your investment if you had just held it for 2 years. Maybe we've reached this local bottom over here in January of 2020, because again, you're comparing to 2018, and it seems kind of commiserate with back over here in 2015, this local bottom as well. Bitcoin Cash, it actually does look a bit different than the other coins, but it does have a ways to go to get to equality, but it's also currently in a downtrend, whereas a lot of the other coins are moving, starting to move up more. Litecoin, again, you can see that concave down pattern that so many of the coins have, and that many of them have started to repeat a move back up above equality, which will likely peter out at a lower ROI compared to the last big market cycle. Let's just keep moving. Some of these graphs don't have anything because they don't have 2-year ROIs. Cardano, 2-year ROI, moving on up, but again, you can still see we are a long ways from equality in Cardano, because if you had been buying Cardano 2 years ago at around $1 or probably less than $1 at this point, and I guess if you had been buying it, then you would still be sitting at a really significant loss. But we'll see what happens with Cardano. XMR, again, the concave down pattern. A lot of these, it looks like we've maybe found these local bottoms, like in Dash and maybe in Neo, maybe in Tron, but Tron hasn't really been performing that well recently. Finally, we have a few more. IOTA, looks like it's kind of in a downtrend here. The same with that, but again, maybe these are local bottoms, because we're comparing them to 2018, and it's nice and all if you can look back at charts where they bounced up and we saw a really good return. But what we're wanting to do is identify where these bottoms are, so that we can anticipate moves back to the upside, so that it isn't just in hindsight. And I know I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record, and I'm mainly just doing this long video so that everyone who, there's something in it for everyone. There's 24 coins here, so hopefully, if you hold at least one of them, this is valuable to you. And if you are in cryptocurrency and you don't hold any of the coins that I'm going over, then I am seriously wondering about you. Here are a few more coins. You can access these in the PDF, of course, and maybe we're finding these local bottoms again, because again we're comparing to the bull market of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. So that's a lot of charts. Sorry that I was long-winded, but I wanted to get through a lot of them so that everyone could see them. If you want to download these again, I would say check out the Telegram channel, and I'll put it in the pinned message, and you can download it. If you don't really want to bother with Telegram, then I would suggest going to my website and signing up for the newsletter. You can find that here. So just go down here, put in your email, and in a few days I'll send it out to everyone. And if you guys like this content and appreciate it and want to see more of it, then go to patreon.com/intothecryptoverse, and we're actually going to be publishing altcoin letters, which is going to be an intensive report on altcoins at the end of this month. So if you guys like this content, then maybe this would be a good report to receive. And if you're not sure, you can always go to this website and go to reports and follow Bitcoin or some other reports, and you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. But of course, altcoin letters will be including a lot of different altcoins. We're going to be looking at different types of optimization for weighting your portfolio based on historical returns and whatnot. So here's an example of a of a long report that we have for Bitcoin. So I would expect something, you know, somewhat related for altcoins. So check that out. And if anything, if none of those things interest you, but you want to follow along, then at the very least, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can continue to remain updated on a lot of the charts I'm making, and you can see some of this macro level analysis and continue to follow along. So that'll wrap it up for this video, guys. I will talk to you next time. Bye.